Well, there's my name, and underneath it, I wish we could have put the Fisher Institute for Nutritional Science, because for about 40 years we called it the Fisher Institute for Medical Research. But now, not only has the research been done, but we have multiple sites that are from other countries that have validated the research that's been done. And I was asked to uh, discuss how I got started as a MD physician that had years of indoctrination of what I would say is the pharmacologic response to health management, which I would summarize by saying if you've got a physical, mental, or emotional problem, we've got a drug for it. Well, that's what I was deeply indoctrinated with. And when I was approached in August 1985, which was 40 years ago this month, I told the businessman that I was not qualified to help him and that he should go to a medical school and find an infectious disease specialist. And that would be the person because he had about $20 million for this project for the Carrington laboratory to develop a new drug with the Food and Drug Administration known as the FDA. Uh, I was asked, how in the world did you get involved in this? Well, I had a double major at the undergraduate level in chemistry and biology, and then worked 2 years on a degree that would advance degree in cellular physiology, which is basically how do plant cells work and animal cells, which humans are part of this molecular biology. And then I went through medical school and two residencies and 30 years of practice in the hospital, all oriented toward conventional medicine and the pharmaceutical paradigm. And I told the individual he should try to get someone from a medical school, and found out later that he had tried this and they wouldn't give him the time of day because this was a natural product. Well, finally, he hired a PhD, Dr. Bill McAnally, from the same medical institution area over in Dallas. And his doctorate was in pharmacology and toxicology. And the both of them began to work on me. And I finally told him I would help him, but I had this skepticism that there was no way in their effort to make a new drug from the active ingredient from aloe vera leaf gel that this could have any significant health benefits. And lo and behold, since they had money, they had 10 academic institutions working on all the phases of new drug development because they were so sure that they would succeed in getting a new drug. But actually, they were working on the phase one, which all drugs have to go through, which is toxic studies. You've got to give them what is the LD50 and LD100 for this substance that you're claiming for a drug? And that LD stands for lethal dose. And that should not be too reassuring to anyone that's so deeply drug oriented as I was. But there must be a wide window between the lethal dose for 50% of the test animals dying and 100% of them dying, or they won't let you go to the second stage. Well, our problem was that we could not find any amount that was toxic to routine toxicology studies in animals and then extended studies. And furthermore, other institutions working down line on the application Undergraduate students at the University of Texas took 3,000 milligrams a day and found no toxicity. And then another group that was working on contract down in Houston took the ever reliable research animal medical students and took sterile IV uh, extract from the aloe vera leaf gel and gave a progressive dose, and it didn't damage any of the medical students either. And I was a consultant that thought I would prove to them that there was nothing in the aloe leaf gel of great benefit. But the reason he was really after this was that he had had reports in 1984, 85, at the peak of our country's worry about the AIDS epidemic, that it was going to break out of the homosexual population and drug addicts and prostitutes and affect the common citizen. Well, to make a long story short, the father of Western pharmacology was named Paracelsus, the most noted person in world history from Switzerland. And his mantra was all drugs are poisons. The benefit depends on the dose. And that's why LD50 and LD100 is so important, because the mode of action of pharmaceutical drugs is to interfere with the engineering and design of life to get its reduction in symptoms. The engineering and design of life being coded in DNA or the genes that control cellular synthesis of bioactive molecules that run the physiology and biochemistry of life. Well, we were kicked out of the FDA because we could not give them an LD50 and LD100 because all drugs are poisons. The reason they were doing this is indicated in 84, 85. The owner of this company had had multiple, in fact, there's 7 different communications from AIDS patients that basically said, I was on my deathbed, prepared to die from this disease of unknown cause and no treatment. Well, extensive research was done, and there was a one of the first group of academic institutions, a researcher there that was in graduate school with Jasbir Cologne, who is not just any research doctor in virology at the University of Alabama at the Southern Research Institute, and she was noted because the National Institutes of Health had sent her over 300 uh, compounds to test against the AIDS virus, and she identified AZT, which was the first drug that was used against the AIDS virus. However, she did not publish anything or present any oral presentations at conferences because the AZT not only inhibited the AIDS virus, but it killed the cells in the tissue culture that the virus was growing in. And sure enough, eventually in Europe, they did a study of about 300 AIDS patients, and half of them got no treatment, and those other half got the AZT, and those that got no treatment did better and lived better. And so the AZT dropped out and nobody uses it anymore. But because of this background, she tested the active ingredient from the aloe in her cultures. And this is the paper that she published. And quite frankly, I don't think I could, well, I didn't really understand her paper. It was so sophisticated and technical that if I had not heard her oral presentation, I don't think I could tell you much about it. But you can see that in her published paper that the active ingredient from the aloe in micrograms uh, gave 100% protection of the cells when it was present, and there was no drug toxicity to the cells in her cultures. In addition, she showed at very low levels that are in the graph here that the aloe mannin gave up to virtually 100% inhibition of growth of the AIDS virus. And at her oral presentation, she all of a sudden went silent looking out the window, and her boss said, Jasmine, is there anything wrong? And she says, I was just thinking about all the buildings and the researchers here in this center, that all their activity for the next probably 5 years was all based on trying to find something for the AIDS epidemic. And here we have it right here because she published two papers and she made oral presentations at conferences for a virus thing. And here you can see in her paper that 62.5 micrograms of the active ingredient from the aloe gave close to 100% inhibition of the AIDS virus, and that this was a remarkable thing, but unfortunately, the czar for the AIDS epidemic was one Anthony Fauci, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and he gave a proclamation that small emerging companies were doing research, and some of them thought they had important things against the AIDS virus, but they do not have the capacity to work their way through the demanding process for a new drug evaluation with the FDA. Number two, they don't have the facilities to produce enough for the world market. Number three, they don't have the distribution set up to, if even if they could be made, to give it. And the last thing is they think what they have is so valuable that those large drug companies that have all these facilities cannot make a business deal with them. So we're not going to consider any of these small companies. And so the Carrington Laboratories that was funding all this research, stock dropped to virtually nothing, and the company was liquidated. Now, uh, in this time that we were working with this, it's noted that the DNA sequence of viruses is not all that different from the altered sequence of DNA for malignant cells. And this is a paper that was published by Dr. Hyland, a Mayo Clinic trained oncologist, and he had been in practice 20 years. And the first underlying thing there is that he had patients that he had never seen in his 20 years of practice do so well. And when he investigated, he found out they had all added to their diet the active ingredient formulation from the aloe plant. And so he did a study from patients in three states, 127 in number. And as he saw that small thing down there, he got unprecedented responses by this combination. And this are the conclusions that you see from this paper that he presented. And I might say that I heard his oral presentation, PowerPoint, three times, and he always ended it with that this combination is a revolution in the treatment of cancer patients. And these are the conclusions at the bottom here of what he saw. Up at the top, you see some of the basic science studies that were done by other investigators in tissue cultures that suggested that there could be some benefits for malignancy cells. But he said, number one, that adding this to the diet of the individuals getting chemotherapy, that it did not neutralize either radiation or the chemotherapy. And the importance of that is a lot of oncologists in their training are told, don't let your patients take any vitamins or improve nutrition, that it will negate the chemotherapy. Well, it didn't do that. Number two, he said it enhanced tumor cell destruction. Fact is, he told me personally he had never seen bone, liver, lung metastasis disappear as fast. Number three, he found out that the normal cells are protected from radiation and the toxicity of the chemotherapy. See, the problem with the cytotoxic chemotherapy is it kills cells, good ones and bad ones. And this is one of the reasons there's such terrible side effects and toxicities of people that are getting chemotherapy for their malignancies. And he was most impressed that the normal cells were not damaged and that they didn't get the toxicities that you frequently get with chemotherapy. Number four, he said that you got reductions in tumor masses that had been resistant to all types of treatment that had ever been tried before. He was getting benefits in cases where the cancers never respond. And number five, that the improved quality of life of the patients while being treated was markedly elevated. And he's indicated that other studies should be done. And as I told you, he ended his PowerPoint presentations with the statement, this is a revolution in cancer treatment. But we had over the years, as I said, there's 40 years between 1985 and August of this year. Uh, we had anecdotal reports of patients responding to leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma, cancer, and sarcomas if this was added to their diets. And recently, I have had two papers come to me where they gave them the funds to do the research in this paper from China. You can notice the authors there. I can't even pronounce their names, but in their abstract, they point out that the ABPA, which is the aloe barbarensis Miller extract, which is the ABPA1, that it alters mitochondrial membrane permeability, which is in every cell generating ATP, the energy to run the body, and that this initiates a caspase cascade reaction. Now, caspase, that's CASPASE, is a proteolytic enzyme. And the significance of this is that this caspase destroys the protein structure of cancer cells, but lo and behold, does nothing to normal cells. And this is historic because cancer research for decades has tried to develop different agents that would be specific against cancer cells and not affect normal cells. Well, this active ingredient from the aloe, Acemannan, does this. And the indices say that this should be from China, that this mitochondrial targeting should be looked at for anti-cancer research. Well, of course, with Carrington Laboratories, we got kicked out of the FDA because there is no detectable toxicity from this molecule, which is remarkable. Now, there is a second publication of using Acemannan for its anti-cancer mechanism of action, and it comes from Saudi Arabia. And the researchers there, they had some Indian researchers as well as Arab researchers, as you see their names there. And lo and behold, that apoptotic cell death means that the aloe Acemannan uh, kills the cancer cells. And again, it points out that the caspase cascade is activated, which is the same mechanism as in the paper from China. And we suspect this may be a general mechanism, though it may not be effective against all malignant cells, but it's certainly effective against cancer cells of the colon and breast cancer cells. So those are two papers that have come to my attention recently that back up the multiple cases we saw over the years that are anecdotal, which in science they teach you mean nothing. But I disagree with that. If you see multiple places where you get benefits from people that don't even know each other, it forms a profile that says this needs to be looked at more definitively. Well, they were able to get the funds in Saudi Arabia and China to follow through on the anti-cancer activity of the active ingredient from the aloe, which is acetylated mannose. Now, I also got a 43-page uh, manuscript published from China, and you see the title there, A New Bowel Material Derived from Aloe Vera, Acemannan, and its basic science to its clinical application. You can see the Chinese authors there. And this is an incredible document. It's 38 pages long. It tells different ways to process the aloe leaf gel to get different applications. And it goes into for the second page acknowledges our key papers published in the 1980s and 90s, and then goes further with its research. And that's is the thing. It's important. Now, here in Texas, the highest level of evidence-based science that we're able to get the research funds to conduct, you can't do any research unless you have money. It's really good stuff to do things with. And the title was The Effect of Aloe Polymanose Multinutrient Complex, a formulation on cognitive and immune function in Alzheimer's patients. And I give tribute there to John Lewis, PhD, that was the faculty member at the Miami Miller School of Medicine in Miami because we approached five different organizations that had Alzheimer's patients, and they wouldn't give us the time of day because this was a natural product and it was nutrition and not a drug things. But finally, the Miami Jewish Health Service, which had the biggest retirement center on the East Coast and 150 beds internally just for Alzheimer's patients and an outpatient thing, that they said they would do the study that an individual family gave us $200,000 to do Alzheimer's research because they had had five family members die of Alzheimer's. In here, you can see the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease where it was published. And this is the abstract from this paper, and it points out that 46% of the individuals that were studied in this safety study of 30 patients because of the drug paradigm, the Institutional Review Board demanded a safety study. Well, we got bonuses. Not only did we show no toxicity to these elderly patients, but we showed that the immune system was activated and that they increased memory and cognition improved in 46% of the patients, and that 23% did not advance with their loss of memory and cognition for a 69% benefit in this pilot study of 30 patients, which opened the door, if we had the funds for research, to do a controlled study at this medical school. Staff that took care of them talked about this was the first time they had ever seen Alzheimer's patients improve, and they had a totally different attitude about coming to work, that was wondering what new and unexpected benefits they would get and see as they came to work as this study progressed for a year. So that's the highest level because we had a contribution to do the study on Alzheimer's patients. Now, I will show you in a few minutes the announcement journal that we put together at the Fisher Institute for Medical Research called Proceedings of the Fisher Institute. And I was a one-man committee that we had to have multiple different sites for benefits from taking more comprehensive nutrition built around the active ingredient from the aloe plant, or we wouldn't publish it. However, the exception to that was individuals that had, and shall we say, initials after their name, because Susan Nieselwig was a counselor and she had a son that was autistic and he responded quite well. So she sent notices to 40 families that had an autistic child, and she published this paper. So if we had individuals that we published their paper, if they were professionals and they had gone years with nothing helping their patients, and they were excited because all of a sudden they were seeing benefits from more comprehensive nutrition. And as I say so frequently, we are supporting the engineering and design of life as it's coded in the genes or in DNA, rather than poisoning it like pharmaceutical drugs do to suppress symptoms. And the ideal drug, if you quit taking it, the symptoms come back. Well, when you turn to more comprehensive nutrition, it seeks to correct the cause for the symptoms and the changes that are deleterious in the health. Now, this is a page from her thing, and I've tried to enlarge it there about 17 characteristics of autistic children. And I think that the one thing you'd really find important is that the language and uh, comprehension and speech was in the 90% improvement. Their ability to comprehend what you were telling them was 94%, and their uh, cognitive development was about 89%, which is what breaks the heart of the mother and father of these children. And these 17 characteristics improved as noted on the right. And then at the bottom of the page, there were just other diseases that all children have that also affect autistic children. And the most important one there is that there were three patients that had asthma, and there was 100% improvement. and also tactile things. It's such a problem with autistic children. There was improvement according to the parents. Now, uh, this again is the Alzheimer's study that I made reference to because it's the highest level of evidence-based science that we were ever had the funds to do. And it was 30 test patients that I told you before. 46% improved memory and cognition, and 23% did not progress with their dementia for a 69% benefit. And one of the things is we drew their serum before starting the study and on exit and froze it. And when the tests for brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor became available, it was increased in despite being diluted with the blood volume. And this is most remarkable because this were the bonuses we got from this safety study, that not only did they improve their memory and cognition, but we got a potential mechanism of action of generations of many millions of stem cells, and the brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor indicated they were differentiating just like in the embryo and becoming cells that were the cause or the ability to improve memory and cognition. Now, at this point, I usually start out with some slides that were done in the early stages of the 80s, but we're putting them at the end in kind of a hope this time that maybe you're beginning to say, I wonder if what he's telling me, there's anything to it. He obviously, if he spent 40 years on this, uh, believes in this. And this was a paper that I found in the medical school library about 11 o'clock at night. And that title may not be catchy for you, but asparagine is an amino acid and it's linked to different sugars or oligosaccharides. Well, we had found that the active ingredient in the aloe was a saccharide, the acetylated mannose. So this caught my attention and I made copies of it. And I found it in June 22nd, 1988. And I made some comments there in the corner on the copy that I made from the journal. And I made a mistake there where I put the Golgi. I should have said endoplasmic reticulum. And because what happens in this paper is extremely important because, and I will show you uh, a, a cartoon that, with the help of a graphic artist, worked several years to put it together. But I think I'll go right to that right now. This is derived from this paper that I showed you there, published in Annual Reviews of Biochemistry 1985 by two biochemists from Washington University in St. Louis, Kornfeld and Kornfeld. And what it describes is it's got about 300 citations because this is a review article of multiple papers, and what putting together all the pieces of the puzzle is what this paper does. And in the left there, you see a cell that looks like it has a little pitchforks off of the side of it. I'll explain that in a minute, but that's about what you can see with 1,000 magnification of a light microscope. And that's an ideal cartoon of a cell. The ribosome and the endoplasmic reticulum at the top, and then to the far right, the Golgi. It requires special procedure in 100,000 magnification electron microscope to see the assembly line there, the ribosome, the endoplasmic reticulum, and the Golgi, which is in every cell. And it's making a point that there at the bottom of the page, everything that's structure and function of the life process, the compounds, the nutrients are put together in cellular synthesis on this assembly line to make the molecules or compounds that carry out the biochemistry and the physiology of life. And in the center, you can't tell it, but there's some little round circles. There are 9 of them that are blue. And lo and behold, in this paper, it shows that the mannose that we found as the active ingredient in the aloe is in this paper. And it shows that in the endoplasmic reticulum, that 9 molecules in 3 chains are put together to make a domain on the membrane of all the cells in all the organs and systems of the body. This domain made up these 9 molecules from the active ingredient of the aloe is why it has been utilized in folk medicine for over 5,000 years. This paper and our research at Carrington really answers the question, how was this possible? And these molecules in the center of the page are so small that electron microscopy can't even show them. And I make a point that with more comprehensive nutrition, we are not treating, curing, mitigating, or correcting an abnormal health condition, because if the cell is takes 1,000 magnification to even see it, and 100,000 to see the assembly line, and then these molecules are at the element, the molecule, the atom, or the ion level too small for any instrument to show it. All we do is improve the supply of nutrient molecules utilized in cellular synthesis on this assembly line that's present in every cell to make all the structure function molecules of the body. And this domain is for cell to cell communication and instructions, much like, if you want to step back from this, that the double helix inside the cell, that's the chromosomes, is like a biocomputer that controls this little factory inside of each cell. And it puts together all these nutrient molecules to make the compounds to run the process of life. And so this is a microcosmos too small for a human being to participate or intervene in. And all we can do is improve the nutrient supply of molecules, which the genes give the instructions for cellular synthesis of how to hook them together to make the compounds to carry out life. And so this was a very important paper to find in the early stages of our research on the aloe, because it's independent scientific knowledge that was in parallel to what we were doing, that shows that we were on the right course of trying to find something, but it's actually much more important than originally we thought, because all we were looking for was a new drug that would be effective against the AIDS virus. Well, we found out that this acetylated mannose acts differently than any drug. The drugs that are against infectious agents interfere with the biochemistry of the infectious agent, whether it's bacteria, virus, fungus. And I might add that we even got reports from Africa that children with chronic malaria, as evidenced by periodic fever, chills, and red cell destruction due to the parasite in their blood. Well, by adding this to their diet, you got the same benefits that we were finding out in this research, that this does not interfere with the biochemistry of the infectious agent. It boosts the body's host defenses. The activity of the white cells are increased, and in the serum, most people are aware of the antibodies that you can't see that are molecular size, but there are multiple agents that are in the serum that work against infectious agents. Well, they're increased in amount and their activity. So this active ingredient from the aloe boosts the body's immunity or host defenses against all types of infections that infect the body. And one of the nice things about this is that the organisms can't develop drug resistance because it's the body's host defenses are increased and driven to a level never seen before. Well, that was just the first mechanism of action we ran into. But as I showed you with the AIDS thing, we found out we were generating millions of adult stem cells and that they differentiate and can make neurons to increase memory and cognition. But more recently, we found out that the active ingredient from the aloe increases the length of telomeres, which are caps on the ends of the chromosomes and genes that protect them from damage. And under normal processes, as we age, your telomeres get shorter. However, by adding the aloe acemannan to your diet, along with other nutrient molecules, low, missing, or avoided by choice, that as you age, the telomeres are lengthened. And the significance of this is that the length of telomeres is the current gold standard in anti-aging research. What do we mean by this? Well, animals with short lifespans have short telomeres. Animals with long lifespans have long telomeres. Families that the individuals die, say, between 55 and 70 from some chronic disease, tend to have short telomeres, and those that lived into their 90s or 100 over have long telomeres. So that's a great benefit from adding the aloe acemannan into your diet. And this, if you understand this cartoon, you've got under your belt a large part of why dietary supplementation is so powerful in longevity and in good health for any individual. And I always have to add that children get more benefit than any other group. Now, this is what we're putting together for all individuals that are interested in it. For over a year, we had the Fisher proceedings for the Fisher research. And as I say, we've changed that name now to the Fisher Institute for Medical Science because we've done all this research and it's been validated. Fact is, I forgot to mention that 38-page manuscript from China that I call the Aloe Bible, it has a bibliography that is awesome because it lists dozens of additional published papers that go further in validating the value of the acetylated mannose or acemanan's role in fostering good health by supporting the engineering and design of life that is coded in our genes that control cellular synthesis of bioactive compounds that run the biochemistry and the physiology of life. And we put these together, and the articles that are in there, one, if there were multiple individuals, like maybe 5 to 7 different sites where people didn't know each other and they got the same benefit that was brought to my attention, this was enough to put it together to make an article. And then there were researchers, PhDs and MDs that had experience and years of experience, and all of a sudden they saw benefits that they had never seen before, and they got excited and wanted the product to do a pilot study. Well, we put the results of these, like the autistic study that I showed you by the Susan Nizowicz from Massachusetts. But to make it easy, we put these together in a packet, and then we've coded, if you notice, little flags for the color of the journals, and it lists there the conditions, like this first one here, volume one, number one, arthritis, rheumatoid, and osteoarthritis, and about antioxidant protection and the importance of glutathione inside the cell, and then the Coxsackie virus that the individual showed that in mice it causes type 1 diabetes, and by using the Acemannan you could prevent the Coxsackie virus from infecting the beta cells that make the insulin. And furthermore, if you went and gave the virus ahead of time and induced hyperglycemia increase, just like type 1 diabetes, you could give them the alloacemannan and they would regenerate with stem cells the cells that make the insulin. That's the type of thing. And this is just the rest of the page that goes on the top of this collection. And at the bottom is very important in red dye there is, as simply as I can put it, is that dietary supplementation only increases the nutrient inventory for the cells, and that a cell has, to even see it, takes 1,000 magnification and light microscope. And inside the cell is an assembly line that uses the nutrient molecules, and it requires 100,000 magnification and electron microscope to even detect this assembly line that I showed you in the cartoon. And this is a microcosmos too small for human participation. And emphasizing here that all we're doing is increasing the nutrient inventory for the cell to work with, because everything is going on in a microcosmos too small for an individual to be involved in. Now, a number of years ago, in the early stages, about the first 10 years of this 40 years, I wrote the book, A Gift of Primal Provision. And this is really basically 2 books in one cover, because the population out there with health problems are kind of in 2 groups. One just wants to know what this might do for me. So we would have a chapter written about the benefits that individuals have experienced from adding this aloe-acemannan into their diet. And then we have those people that want to know why this works, and I sometimes call them information junkies. They want to know why. Well, we alternate these chapters with one chapter telling you why this works, the molecular biology of it, and the biochemistry. And if you have questions about anything that I'm telling you today, at the top there, you see my email, which is typical that physicians often have. How? Because it's rmcdaniel at wellnessquest.org. If you send that to me, I have copies of things that these papers that have been published that I can send you if you want them. And so now I say I am Dr. Reg McDaniel of the Fisher Institute for Nutritional Science instead of the Fisher Institute for Nutritional Research because the research has been done and validated by multiple individuals. And oftentimes I'm introduced like some kind of a highfalutin expert, but as I point out, I have not invented anything new. Fact is, you can find in the Hebrew scriptures of the Old Testament multiple hints that 5,000 years ago they recognized the importance of nutrition in our human life and the quality of our life. So if I have any special talent, I think it's listening to people and filing away their stories that they tell me. And as they repeat these stories, they form similar stories that say this needs to be looked at. And that's what we've got in the Fisher proceedings to help you share this knowledge with other people that so many of them I run into. They say they've spent days, weeks, months, even years taking various medications from various medical centers and doctors, and nothing has done any good for them. And lo and behold, they add this more comprehensive nutrition that supports the engineering and design of life. And in a short while, for a much less cost, their problem is corrected. So I say I'm not an expert. I'm really your messenger and your servant in behalf of the Acemannan science and dietary supplementation. And this book is available if you're interested in it. And I think they're $15 a copy. And it's really two books in one for two different types of individuals. Those just want to know examples of what this has done for people, and it might do for me. And you don't want any details. And the others that I call the information junkies, that are chapters about the molecular biology and the biochemistry of why alloacemannan, better known as mannose, acetylated mannose or acemannan, is a benefit in so many deviations from normal health. And for that, that's the end of this presentation that was made in Bronson, Missouri. And if you have any questions, I gave you my email address there, and I'll be happy to uh, do my best to respond to any questions you have. Have a wonderful day and blessings to each and every one of you.